Amid continuing protests, India's top wrestlers, the Indian Olympic Association has appointed a 3-member ad hoc committee to run day-to-day affairs of the Wrestling Federation of India. Meanwhile, Indian Olympic Association Chief Pt Usha has strongly criticized the public protest by wrestlers over alleged sexual harassment by Wrestling Federation India boss Brijbhushan Sharan Singh. Mr. Singh, a BJP MP, has denied the allegations and indicated he will fight fiercely to prove he is innocent.
हमारा एथलेटिक कमीशन है, वो लोगों को पहले थोड़ा तो डिसिप्लिन तो होना चाहिए, है ना? तो they should come to us earlier if they have a real problem. Instead of coming to us, they are gone straight away to street. No, it is not good for the sports, not only for the residents.
And my colleague Tanishq is on the ground reporting from where the protests have been underway.
Day 5 of restless protests, and there have been some major developments today. PT Usha has reacted to the protest, and along with her, Anand Thakur has also reacted to the protest. Now, I am joined by Sakshi Malik, who is at the forefront of this protest since the very beginning. Sakshi जी, सबसे पहले आप क्या बोलना चाहेंगी? PT Usha के जो comments रहे हैं that इनडिसिप्लिन है ये प्रोटेस्ट, उसके ऊपर आप क्या कहना चाहेंगी?
देखो, सबसे पहले तो हम यहाँ बैठते ही नहीं अगर फैसला अच्छा होता। जो भी कमेटी में बयान दे के आई है लड़कियाँ, लड़के जो कि ऑन रिकॉर्ड है, वीडियो बन रही थी वहाँ पे, तो और जो कमेटी के मेंबर्स थे वो भी रो रहे थे लड़कियों को चुप कराने के लिए, फीमेल मेंबर्स, कि हम आपको न्याय दिलाएंगे। लेकिन कहाँ दिलाया न्याय? हमारी तो नहीं सुनी गई, तो उसके बाद मजबूरन हमें यहाँ बैठना पड़ा। और रही बात अनडिसिप्लिन की, तो एक एथलीट इतनी ऊपर तक तभी पहुँच पाता है जब वो डिसिप्लिन में होता है पूरा। तो आज बड़ी निराशा हुई, बड़ा दुख हुआ ये सुन के कि एक महिला होके भी वो महिलाओं का दर्द नहीं समझ रही हैं। क्योंकि मैं बचपन से उनको फॉलो करती हूँ और हमेशा से ये था कि उन्होंने अपने देश का नाम रोशन किया तो मुझे भी उन जैसा बनना है। लेकिन वो भी इतना अनसेंसिटिव और ये सब बयान देते हैं तो दिल को बड़ा ठेस पहुँची। आज पूरा दिन से ठेस पहुँच रही है।
अनुराग ठाकुर जी ने कहा कि वो आपके साथ घंटों बैठे रहे, 12 घंटे बैठे थे, और आपने जिनकी भी मांग करी थी कि बबीता फोगाट भी कमेटी में हो, उनको भी इंक्लूड किया गया। और तो इसके ऊपर आपका क्या कहना है? कि उन्होंने कहा है कि 12 घंटे बैठे, बबीता फोगाट को भी इंक्लूड किया, जिनको भी आपने रिकमेंड किया वो सब इंक्लूड किए गए थे कमेटी में।
सबसे पहले तो 12 घंटे बैठे ही नहीं थे वो, कुछ ही मिनट्स बैठे थे। और रही बात कमेटी के मेंबर्स ही आपस में सहमत नहीं है। कमेटी के मेंबर सहमत ही नहीं है आपस में। रिपोर्ट जैसे आप बबीता की बता रहे हो, तो बबीता से तो ज़बरदस्ती साइन करवाए हैं, रिपोर्ट पढ़ने ही नहीं दी। बबीता को ही क्यों शामिल किया गया? हमने तो 3-4 नाम दिए थे कि लास्ट में ये आरोप लगा दे ये भी पहलवान ही है और ऐसे ही रफा दफा कर देंगे। प्री प्लान लग रहा है मुझे तो। अभी जब बयान दे रहे थे, जब तो इतने वो सेंसिटिव थे हमें लेके दोनों ही कमेटीज़, लेकिन अब भी ऐसा लग रहा है कि ये क्या बिल्कुल प्री प्लान था। ये मेंबर होंगे, इनको बिठाएंगे और सब, मुझे ऐसा ही लग रहा है।
कल अब सुप्रीम कोर्ट में सुनवाई है इस चीज़ की, सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने इस मैटर का कॉग्निसेंस लिया है, तो अब आपकी क्या उम्मीद है कि कल सुप्रीम कोर्ट से क्या उम्मीद है? और फिर ये प्रोटेस्ट का आगे आपकी रणनीति क्या रहेगी? किस तरीके से कब कितना आगे तक चलेगा प्रोटेस्ट?
सुप्रीम कोर्ट पे भरोसा है कि वो फेयर डिसीजन देंगे और कल एक बार डिसीजन आ जाए उसके बाद बताते हैं कि आगे प्रोटेस्ट का हम क्या करेंगे।
So that was Sakshi Malik speaking to us. All eyes are on the Supreme Court hearing tomorrow on the restless protest. New Delhi with camera person Sudesh, Tanishq Punjabi for NDTV.
The second batch of Indians evacuated from violence-hit Sudan arrived in Mumbai on Thursday afternoon. The Indian Air Force aircraft, which took off from Jeddah earlier, brought back 246 Indians under Operation Kaveri. Another Operation Kaveri flight comes to Mumbai. 246 more Indians come back to the motherland, External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar had tweeted. A day before, the first batch of 360 Indians had arrived in New Delhi.
10-year-old Adi Jain, among the 360 Indian nationals rescued from Sudan, recounts how each day in the conflict-hit country had become life-threatening.
यहाँ पे गन्स चल रही हैं, बॉम्ब्स फेंक रहे हैं और मतलब ऐसे बिल्कुल खराब हालात हैं।
Adi and her family feel lucky to be among the first set of people evacuated from the North African country. After more than 10 days of incessant fighting there between the army and the paramilitary forces in a power struggle between the generals of the two forces. After Operation Kaveri's first rescue flight reached the national capital yesterday, a second one carrying 246 more Indians landed in Mumbai today. A mother rescued from Sudan says she feared for her children's lives there every moment.
बस जान बचा के हम वहाँ से आए. इवन हमारा जो मनी वगैरह था वो भी तिजोरी के अंदर जो था वो छोड़ दिया हमने.
The Indian Navy also continues bringing Indians to Jeddah in Saudi Arabia. After INS Sumedha, INS Teg on anti-piracy patrol was diverted to ferry those who were stranded. And now INS Tarkesh is also in action. But with close to 3,000 Indians still stuck in the crisis-hit country, the Indian government assures that no one will be left behind.
There are 3,500 Indian nationals and about 1,000 odd PIOs in Sudan. Our effort is to get every stranded Indian out of the harm's way into an area of relative safety and then from there to Port Sudan and back here.
While they remember the horrors, they've left everything there and they're going to start a new life here in India. In New Delhi, with camera person Kanan Patra, Priyanshi Sharma for NDTV.
And ACC Limited has posted a robust Q4 result with net revenue seems to be up for this quarter. I'm being joined by Sakshi Bajaj for more on this. Sakshi, what are the details?
That's right. Encouraging results from ACC in the fourth quarter. Net revenue up at 6%. And of course, we've seen the cement major also post volume growth. Volume growth has improved by 9% on a quarterly basis. Now, the company aims to bring further down and further reduce the operating costs as well as the logistic costs and improve the scale of blended cement as well. They also aim at expanding EBITDA margins going forward. And as per market experts, the cement and infra sectors are likely to outperform going forward. So that's as far as the sector and the company's performance is concerned. The CEO also said that they do expect strong performance in the coming quarters going forward.
Right, Sakshi. Thank you for those details. And there seems to be a big challenge ahead for Arjun Tendulkar. But we'll come to that in a short bit. Time for a short break.
Brought to you by.
This is NDTV. No noise, no shouting, and most importantly, no lies. Our lead story tonight. Big international story. India is closely watching it. News that informs and inspires.
The news with Sonia Singh. Monday to Friday at 8 p.m. only on NDTV 24x7.
The only side we're on is yours.
20 years since we started, this music has been with you. Now, we want you to share your version of it. Let your inner artists out by creating an incredible remix of the NDTV signature track. Log on to ndtv.com/bestofndtv. Get inspired and submit your rendition. One winner gets an all-expense paid holiday for two. NDTV 24/7 20th year celebration.
Gadgets 360 is here to help you with all your tech needs.
Gadget 360, Gadget Love.
Gadgets 360, Gadgets Love. You too can get some gadget love with buying guides, expert reviews, and all the latest news on Gadgets 360.
Debates are essential not just for journalism but for humanity. It ignites our mind, opens it up for counter-opinion. To hear all views, opinion of all hues. Which is why the oldest running debate show on Indian news television is not 23 years old, but young at 23.
इस इनिशिएटिव को मैं अभिनंदन करता हूं कि सच को सच के रूप में पेश करने का उन्होंने साहस दिखाया।
So let us begin the big fight. In a deeply polarized world, where space for disagreement is shrinking, where take it or leave it defines discourse, we take a step back. A debate has many facets, perhaps no one right answer. Left, right and center, conversations that get to the core of the debate. Left, right and center with me, Vishnu Shom, 9 p.m. on NDTV 24x7.
Years since we started, this music has been with you, playing in your homes, at work, and in your car. Now, we want you to share your version of it. Calling all music buffs from across India to let your inner artists out by creating an incredible remix of the NDTV signature track for the world to hear. Log on to ndtv.com/bestofndtv to access the original track. Get inspired and submit your rendition. One winner gets an all-expense-paid holiday for two to the luxurious Alila Fort, Bishangarh, Rajasthan. NDTV 24/7 20th year celebrations.
This is NDTV. No noise, no shouting, and most importantly, no lies. Our lead story tonight. Big international story. India is closely watching it. News that informs and inspires.
The news with Sonia Singh. Monday to Friday at 8 p.m. only on NDTV 24/7.
The only side we're on is yours.
20 years since we started, this music has been with you. Now, we want you to share your version of it. Let your inner artists out by creating an incredible...
Hello, good evening and welcome to NDTV. This is Breaking Views. I am Ankit Tyagi. Ladies and gentlemen, today was the 6th day or the 6th hearing as far as the Supreme Court's historic hearing on the same-sex marriage is going on. Some very interesting, in fact, arguments and counter-arguments, questions and discussions took place in the court number 1, the constitutional bench, which is led by CJI, Mr. Chandrachud. Now, key questions today was asked, and that key question is, how can same-sex couples avail social benefits? This is what the court today asked of the government. In certain things, the government also, or at least represented by the Solicitor General, did agree that, all these questions of benefits as far as the same-sex couples are concerned, they need to be looked upon, they need to be looked in further detail. But the centre kept coming up with their arguments, sometimes using notions of incest and others to try and dissuade the court in thinking towards any sort of ruling as far as in favour of the same-sex marriage is concerned. Now, remember, this hearing is going on a clutch of petitions which have been filed in the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court is hearing it like it heard the Ayodhya matter. The Constitution bench at this moment looking at the validity of this question. Now, let's very quickly, in fact, as I told you, dozens of same-sex couples had approached the Supreme Court. Now, let's first, in fact, go ahead and talk about what happened as far as the Supreme Court is concerned today. What were the arguments that were made by the various parties in the court today? In fact, the court asked, how can same-sex couple avail social benefits? This is what the top question the Supreme Court has put to the centre. Now, the Supreme Court has also asked the government, see how to address issues without granting marital status. Because this has been one argument which has been put forward by the same-sex couples, that despite the decriminalization of Section 377 of the IPC, they cannot nominate their partner as far whether it's their bank account or their insurance, like any heterosexual couple can. Now, apart from that, the CJI also agreed that if the arena of legislature, now what? The CJI said, what does the government want to do with the cohabitatory relations? The Supreme Court seeks centre's response on Wednesday on all these issues. So there have been, and as the Supreme Court has made these changes, you can hear these arguments live, fascinating arguments that go in the court. Let's just listen in to some of the highlights today in this case that took place inside the court number 1 of the Supreme Court.
That I am attracted to my sister. I get, we are consenting adults. We are entering into activities within the privacy. And we claim our right of autonomy, our right of choice, and our right of doing something in private domain. Based on that very argument, my lord, I'm posing a question to myself. Can someone not challenge this definition itself? Why this restriction?
That look, if the court were to go into the legislative arena, you've made a very powerful argument on that look, you'll be legislating. This is not your remit. This is for Parliament or the state legislatures under entry 5 as we put up front. But short of that, our law has gone so far now. Now what does the government want to do to ensure that these cohabitatory relationships, if I can call it that, the relationships based on cohabitation, on association, Brother Narasimha says, they must be recognized in terms of creating conditions of security, social welfare. And to ensure, by doing that, we also ensure that for the future, that these relationships cease to be ostracized in society.
All right, so arguments have been, in fact, going on as far as the Supreme Court is concerned. You heard a few of them where the Solicitor General was making an argument about sexual preferences, and the court, of course, asking, counter questions on that. Let's very quickly open this out, because the key question today is, what about the basic rights as far as the same-sex couples is concerned? Let's very quickly introduce my guests, those who are joining me on the broadcast at this moment. We are, in fact, going across to my guest, Mr. Deshwatan Nigam, is with us at this moment. He is a lawyer himself, and he will go across and present, supports the BJP and also the government's point of view as far as this case is concerned. Geeta Bhatt, political analyst, leaning towards the right, is also with us at this moment. We also have Mario de Penha, petitioner for the queer marriages, same-sex marriages, and Rituparna Bora, co-founder of the Nazaria Foundation, is also with us. I welcome all of you to the show. Thank you for joining us on the broadcast. I want to start by asking you, Mr. Deshwatan Nigam, very important question today was asked by the Supreme Court. Forget the sanctity of the marriage and whether this court, in fact, rules anything on it. What about the basic fundamental rights as far as the same-sex couples are concerned, or the LGBTQ community is concerned, whether it is about, being nominee or in their insurance scheme and other benefits that heterosexual couples get? The court has given time till Wednesday as far as the government is concerned. What is your view on that, sir?
Ankit, in fact, today the court, as I have always been talking on the TV channels, in fact on NDTV itself, that social marriage recognition is a social status and falls within the domain of the parliament to legislate or not to legislate. And this is what I think the Supreme Court bench is also veering about it. And the next question arises to give them social benefits equal to those of married couples, which means giving the same kind of status to that of married couples, the fundamental rights that the married couples have. And who can give that? So Supreme Court, which it cannot achieve directly, for which it is veering around that it falls in the parliamentary domain, is trying to achieve indirectly. So that's a very important question, and that has to be kept in mind. So equation with the married couples cannot be done. Now, to open a joint account, any two person can open a joint account. That's not an issue. Nominees, yes, they ask a relationship. So far as insurance is concerned, they ask what is your relationship. And that is where the question of marriage comes. And to
but
give
Mr.
them
Deshmukh
fundamental...
Nigam, because let me just ask you a counter question before I move on to my other guest. Argument that only legislature, because this is what the basic premise of the government also is, and you are saying the same thing, that only the legislature alone can rule on this issue. The court is not legislating by hearing these petitions, but ruling on the constitutionality of the laws involved in this question. So why should the court not go ahead and rule on this?
Let me tell you, the constitutionality has not been challenged. Whether these particular act is ultra vires the constitution, that is not before the question. They want it to be interpreted in a manner so that same-sex marriage gets the marital status of that of married couples.
Okay.
And to say that it is unconstitutionality, then you have to decide at least 160 laws, the constitutionality of those that Supreme Court cannot do. They have to change the definition of marriage.
Can the argument that so many laws will have to be amended, can that hold, or can that be the biggest hurdle in terms of progression or reform? I will come to that for you, for a response from you on that. But before I do that, Mario, if I can, bring you in. Today I was going through a piece which has been written by Mr. Swapan Das Gupta, Member of Parliament of the Bharatiya Janata Party, and also one of very prominent intellectuals as far as the right, center to right position is concerned. He said, and I just want your response on that, and I'm quoting him here. He said that India, it would seem, is being force-fed a fringe view of the new enlightenment. Is that how? What is your response to Mr. Swapan Das Gupta when he says that a fringe is force-feeding their views on the majority?
What I would like to say in response to that is queer people are everywhere and we are not a fringe. If you gave us the right and the dignity to lead our lives, to the fullest sense of what it means to lead a life in this country, not as second-class citizens, not as people who have to beg the court for basic rights that the other panelists on this TV show have. If you don't treat us as second-class citizens, you will realize we are everywhere and we are a large part of the population. Our census does not ask the basic question of how many of us there are around. So you don't actually know. There have been studies done in other progressive countries where it has been shown that up to 7% of the population now identifies as LGBT. So we aren't a fringe. And I think if you start treating us like a fringe, as second-class citizens, what the Solicitor General tried to do in court today by speaking about us with a complete lack of dignity, by saying that we are on the same lines as incestuous people, that is really unfair.
Absolutely.
And it is a way of treating us as second-class citizens and telling the rest of this country that we are nothing better than second-class citizens.
And that distinction has been very clearly made in the 2018 historic judgment by the Supreme Court. Its Supreme Court has not decriminalized, these sections as far as incest is concerned or rape or anything else. They have only gone ahead and decriminalized or read down the provisions under Section 377. But Geeta Bhatt, I can bring you in. A very important argument was made, and this is what Mr. Swapan Das Gupta, when he said a fringe is force-feeding their view on the majority, but can the majority in any country be left loose to dictate how a minority should live, breathe, and their basic fundamental rights?
Ankit, it is so ironical that the Uniform Civil Code is still date is which is part of the directive principles in the Constitution, is still languishing and yet to see the daylight in terms of judiciary intervening in it, and there is still no Constitution bench on it. Something which actually is going to influence and affect a large number of women in this country. But nevertheless, but the question that you are asking, you see, the point here is that there are two aspects to it. One aspect is the social aspect and the other is the aspect in terms of looking in legal terms. the social, if you look at the legal aspect, definitely this is what has been discussed in the court today, that even under Special Marriage Act, if you are trying to make any changes, it cannot be done without affecting the personal laws, because there is a correlation between, there are various provisions within the Special Marriage Act which are directly related to the personal laws. And in that case, you cannot say that we are not going to touch the personal laws.
So are we somewhere saying, Geeta Bhatt, that because of all these arguments, the privileges that you get or somebody else who's a heterosexual couple gets about, about nominations, all those should be denied? All those basic rights should be denied?
You see, basic rights in terms of, there are single women who get, adoption rights. They adopt babies in this country. It is not that. I know single women who have adopted children. So, see, the point is that if you are talking in terms of protecting their vulnerabilities, where there could be, you can discuss in those terms, but in terms of providing, a legal sanctity to marriage, which is sacrosanct, in any personal law.
Ma'am, but okay, I'll come back to this. I'll come back to this. What you're saying is sacrosanct. But Rituparna, the notion that this is exactly where largely the argument that is being drawn, that the notion of same-sex marriage challenges the very institution of marriage, which cuts across almost all religions. The argument is that your demand, or the people, those who are the petitioners in this case, their demand will turn it seems, the world upside down.
It will turn the world upside down. Therefore, everyone is actually after us. I would actually remind both Geeta Bhatt and the other speaker that we are the citizens of this country. And the first thing that the Constitution of the country talks about is the preamble. And the preamble talks about the fact that we, the people of India, having solemnly resolved, blah, 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 to secure to all its citizens. And we are regarded as citizens. Some of us pay taxes. We all are entitled to votes. We are also abiding by the rules of this country. And when we are abiding by the rules of this country and we are regarded as citizens, when we are regarded as citizens, we are also to be treated equally. When the Solicitor General, again and again, in his arguments, kept on saying that homosexual people or queer or trans people are not in equal status to us. And when he means us heterosexual people, it is very triggering for us. And what Geeta Bhatt said that single women are adopting, who is stopping single women from adopting? Not every LGBT people will get married. Some will not get married. It is not a monolithic group, but people who would want to get married. Why are we not allowing them to get married? Marriage is such a sacred institution that many parents are forcing their daughters, and actually forcing many marriages in India are still arranged marriages. And when a daughter says that they don't want to get married, they're forcefully getting married at the age of 14 even.
Right.
So when marriage is so sacrosanct, then why isn't a queer or a trans person being allowed to get married? Is my question.
Mr. Deshwada Nigam, if I can bring you in, like the argument that you were making earlier, sir. I'm coming to you, ma'am. Many laws have to be amended to make this possible. I mean, can this argument hold against, let's say, social or legal reforms and progress in general?
Well, Ankit, we live in a parliamentary democracy. Any change in law or amendment has to be done by parliament. This is the short point. Whether parliament does it tomorrow or not is another question. So something which has to fall within the parliamentary domain, can Supreme Court enter into it? And that is what the Supreme Court bench is also veering to that very same view. Now, individual rights are not compromised. Here, this community as an individual has all the rights as Ms. Geeta Bhatt has, or me has, or other panelists have. But the status equalizing with that of married couple is the distinction that you have to keep in mind. That because the marriage has been defined in a manner by the acts of the parliament, the other definitions cannot be brought in by the Supreme Court. Therefore, the parliament can change this. So anything that has to happen with the laws, we are in a rule of law, country of rule of law. We are not a banana republic. It has got to go through the parliament. Parliament has to discuss, and whether who decides what is a reform, the parliament will decide, the society will decide. 5 judges seated on there cannot decide what is a reform and what is a not a reform, because it's a social phenomena. It has got to go through the parliament. These are very serious, complex questions.
Okay, Rituparna disagrees and vehemently is shaking her head. Before I go to Mario, Rituparna, you want to come in because what Mr. Deshwatan Nigam essentially says that at this moment, whatever the parliament is, whatever the court is doing, it's absolutely beyond its purview. So if the government support for the historic 2018 judgment against 377 was possibly a step forward, doesn't this stance of the government to play the arbiter for the LGBTQ community's freedom somehow displays its discomfort with the family relationships?
Okay, so I'm a political science student, and I have to say this: we are a democratic country, and therefore the legislature, the judiciary, and the executioner have different roles. The judiciary, the Supreme Court, is also known as a guardian of the Constitution. And now, when we as petitioners are asking our constitutional rights, please remember this. We are asking for our constitutional rights. We are asking our rights to be protected. And as the guardian of the Constitution, the Supreme Court has every right to protect our rights.
Okay.
So please, So the legislature can make laws, but as the guardian of the Constitution, the Supreme Court can absolutely give a judgment.
Okay. But Mario, barring a few exceptions, comments which, and I see a lot of people from the petitioners and those who are supporting this cause, they seem to be celebrating the exchange which is going on as far as the court is concerned. Some very valid questions being raised by the CJI and other judges as well. But barring a few exceptions, most of these comments do not make it to the final judgment. Is there somehow, you feel that an attempt to create a discourse by using what is happening as far as the day-to-day hearing is concerned in the court?
See, I would not presume to know what the final judgment of the learned judges is going to be. But I have great faith in our judiciary and in the 5-judge bench of the Supreme Court that will be considering this matter. And I think that the judges are really, giving both parties their due. So I don't think that it's not fair to presume in one way or the other which way the judgment will go. However, I will say this: the Solicitor General today suggested that some kind of rights may be given. Mr. Deshwatan Nigam also suggested that some kind of rights may be given, but the dignity of marriage will be kept away from community. And I just want to say, I'm also a historian. No matter where you've gone in the world, conservative governments first offer a little bit of civil union, a little bit of domestic partnership, but the craving, the desire for the dignity of marriage never subsides. And I think we have to remember that as citizens, because when you offer marriage, you offer something that the other two don't offer.
Absolutely.
Marriage, it is a bouquet of rights, of course, but it is also an issue of dignity, and we should never forget that.
Okay, but Geeta, can tradition be the basis of modern understanding of fundamental rights, or can it be a barrier, as I asked earlier, in legal reforms?
But if you talk in terms of traditions, then I think in Bharatiya tradition, alternative orientations were always inclusive within the society. Whether it is in terms of, Ardhanarishwar, or whether it is in terms of Tritiya Prakriti, it has always been a part and parcel of the Indian society. They were never discriminated. But here, what you are talking of in terms of is putting them, as in the center of the society and trying to redefine what marriage stands for. And also, please do understand, this is going to have ramifications which are going to severely affect the protection which the law has been given to women in this country. whether it is in terms of Dowry Prohibition Act or whether it is in sexual harassment.
How?
Various laws which are, because you are redefining in terms of, you're trying to redefine in terms of what a man stands for, what a woman stands for. You are trying to redefine what marriage stands for.
No, but why should it be only looked in that? That's the problem. You are looking at it only from the prism of a man and a woman. We are talking about not just a man and just a woman here.
No, you can't see. Here the question is, you are saying that the Special Marriage Act in the amendment can be brought in the Special Marriage Act.
Okay.
No one is talking about a special act meant for this purpose. No one is talking about
May I
that.
respond to what Geeta Bhatt is saying, that this is going to open a Pandora box, which will have problems in terms of the legal rights and of course the laws and also in terms of society. Geeta Bhatt, okay, complete in 10 seconds.
You see, petitioners are surely trying to avoid going into personal laws of Muslims and Christians because they very well know that what their holy scriptures, how they stand on this.
Come on, let's not give even this debate, which is of a rainbow color, a specific religious color. Mario, respond to what Geeta Bhatt is saying.
I won't give in to Ms. Bhatt's last provocation, but I will say that our constitution is broad and strong enough to allow equal dignity before the eyes of the law, but also to acknowledge that there are some people within our country who are more marginalized than the others. So it does make special provisions for women. It does make special provisions for the scheduled castes. And this exists at the same time that the Constitution promises equal dignity before the law.
Okay.
So if both of these can be brought together in compromise, I really don't see how our petitions before the court are going to lead to some situation where there is a loss of rights for women.
Okay.
I would like to reassure Ms. Bhatt that there won't be any such thing.
Okay, Deshwardhan Nigam, what about the argument that same-sex marriage, it doesn't subvert the institution of marriage, but it makes it more inclusive? There are others on the margin, those who can actually avail the same benefits that a heterosexual couple is. So what's the problem with that? They're not asking you to change the way you live your life.
See, again, I'm saying these are social complex issues, cannot be decided in court. If tomorrow Parliament in its wisdom thinks it can be allowed, it can be allowed. The fact is, who decides?
But Deshwardhan Nigam, there have been 10 countries out of 32 which have legalized same-sex marriage. 10 of them, including the United States of America, has done it through the courts. In fact, it has come out through a ruling as far as the courts are concerned. Why not in India?
Let me answer that. We are not a cut, copy, paste kind of a society. We are a society. Our legal jurisprudence are based on our own historical context and the customs and traditions. Theirs is based on theirs.
The basic argument of this law, you find the roots in the colonial law. So it's cut, copy, paste of the colonial morality and that law.
See, the fact is that morality which is there, it has to be tested with ancient Indian scriptures and today's present. And who decides that? Who decides that is an issue. Society will decide through its parliament. These are social reforms you're talking about. Who decides what is a reform?
Okay, I'm completely out of time on this, but it just seems that one step forward in 2018 and 2 steps back today with where the government stands as far as this view is concerned. And it's also becomes quite comfortable to make this argument that Gulami ki zanjeere todo and all those rules and laws we have to change. But when it suits our purpose today, we stick to the colonial era laws which possibly have no relevance today. But thank you so much to all my panelists for joining me and expressing your views on the broadcast. Thank you so much to our viewers for joining us on this edition of Breaking News. News and updates will continue on the other side with my colleague Vishnu. Stay tuned.
Co-presented by Amity University, ranked amongst the top 3% universities globally. P-Mark, the mustard specialist since 1933. And Airtel 5G Plus.
दोनों चश्मे नहीं मिल रहे यार। अरे अच्छा ही तो हुआ। Now switch to Titan Eye Plus.
टूटने पे free replacement.
Gadgets 360 is here to help you with all your tech needs.
Gadget 360, Gadget Love.
Gadgets 360, Gadgets Love.
You too can get some gadget love with buying guides, expert reviews, and all the latest news on Gadgets 360.
Debates are essential not just for journalism but for humanity. It ignites our mind, opens it up for counter opinion. To hear all views, opinion of all hues. Which is why the oldest running debate show on Indian news television is not 23 years old, but young at 23.
इस इनिशिएटिव को मैं अभिनंदन करता हूं कि सच को सच के रूप में पेश करने का उन्होंने साहस दिखाया.
So let us begin the big fight.
In a deeply polarized world, where space for disagreement is shrinking, where take it or leave it defines discourse, we take a step back. A debate has many facets, perhaps no one right answer. Left, right and center, conversations that get to the core of the debate. Left, right and center with me, Vishnu Shom, 9 p.m. on NDTV 24x7.
Years since we started, this music has been with you, playing in your homes, at work, and in your car. Now, we want you to share your version of it. Calling all music buffs from across India to let your inner artists out by creating an incredible remix of the NDTV signature track for the world to hear. Log on to ndtv.com/bestofndtv to access the original track. Get inspired and submit your rendition. One winner gets an all-expense paid holiday for two to the luxurious Alila Fort, Bishangarh, Rajasthan. NDTV 24/7 20th year celebrations.
This is NDTV. No noise, no shouting, and most importantly, no lies. Our lead story tonight. Big international story. India is closely watching it.
India-China defense ministers meet in New Delhi. India's strong message to China on border issue basis of bilateral relations have eroded. Situation tense in Manipur's Churachandpur. Chief Minister's Friday meeting venue set on fire. Gangster turned politician Anand Mohan walks free. Posters say Lion of Bihar. Murdered IAS officer's daughter appeals to Prime Minister with folded hands. Daughter breaks down, says we are not powerful enough to fight these people. Now NDTV accesses video of powerful Naxal explosion, grief and anger at wreath-laying ceremony. Chief Minister carries coffin of Jawan. The 5-judge bench of Supreme Court, led by the Chief Justice of India, hearing the crucial case on same-sex marriages, has asked the centre if social benefits can be availed by them without marriage. Court also made references to this issue being in the arena of legislature. Thousands mourn passing of Prakash Singh Badal, ex-Punjab Chief Minister's last rites in native village Lambi. Politicians to Aam Aadmi all line up in tribute. Narrow escape for Corbett tourist. Tiger growls, pounces on tourist vehicle. Hello, I'm Sneha Koshi. India has sent a strong message to China during the first meeting of defense ministers of the two nations since the Galwan incident, underscoring the need for peace and tranquility at the border. New Delhi said violation of existing agreements has eroded the entire basis of bilateral relations.
The message which the Defense Ministry has come out with, which is what was conveyed to the Chinese general, is, I think, the strongest message that India has ever conveyed to China in recent times, where they have said, and I quote, Mr. Rajnath Singh reiterated that violation of existing agreements has eroded the entire basis of the bilateral relationship, and that disengagement at the border will logically be followed by de-escalation. Another important statement, the Raksha Mantri categorically conveyed that the development of relations between India and China is premised on prevalence of peace and tranquility at the borders. Now, they've said this before, but I think it's the use of words right now which has really changed what the entire situation is. And I think that's what India and China need to actually look at very closely. The key point over here is the language which has been used by the Indian side, and that language perhaps reflects a greater confidence in our own infrastructure build-up. On our side in 2020, a lot of it did not exist. The message may be considered the same, but the use of the words over here stronger than it's been perhaps any time in the last 2 years.
Adma Krishnaiah, the daughter of the IAS officer murdered in Bihar 29 years ago, has appealed to Prime Minister Narendra Modi to intervene about the release of Anand Mohan Singh, the man jailed in the case. A gangster turned politician, Anand Mohan Singh was released at 3 a.m. on Thursday following a tweak in the jail rules of the state. The matter has turned into a huge political controversy, with the top body of IAS officers in the country and leaders of the BJP criticizing the Nitish Kumar government.
Murder convict Anand Mohan out of jail in the dark, well before sunset. His release from Saharsa jail today after 16 years was made possible by the Bihar government changing a key rule. The Don turned politician instigated a mob which killed an IAS officer, G. Krishnaiah, in 1994, the DM of Gopalganj. His release has caused a political war in Bihar. The BJP says it's done by the Nitish government to garner Rajput votes ahead of 2024 elections, although some in the party welcome the release.
आपने जेल मैनुअल को ट्वीक किया, उसमें संशोधन किया, उसमें सुधार किया, केवल 2024 के लोकसभा चुनाव में वोट लेने के लिए अपराधियों को छोड़ा गया.
However, Deputy Chief Minister Tejasvi Yadav says it's done legally.
अपना सजा जो है उन्होंने काटा है, जो लीगल तरीका है, कानूनी तरीका है, उससे वो रिया हो अपने सजा काट.
In fact, Bihar's Chief Secretary has justified his release, saying it's done after seeing Anand Mohan's overall report.
हर व्यक्ति को, हर संगठन को अपनी राय व्यक्त करने का अधिकार है. लोग अपनी राय दे रहे हैं.
The Don's supporters in Saharsa hail him as hero.
ये एक अच्छे इंसान है, राम जी हैं हमारे, और ये जो निकले हैं और बहुत कुछ होने वाला है, इस समाज का कल्याण होने वाला है, और ये वो एक जनमानस के नेता है.
Not just in Saharsa, in Mohan's native village, hundreds gathered to catch his glimpse. They say for them it's like Ram coming back from exile.
आप भी राजपूत हैं? आप राजपूत हैं, तो आप वोट देंगे इनके नाम पे?
क्यों नहीं देंगे?
हाँ, सरकार को वोट देंगे इनके नाम पे?
इनके नाम पर वोट देंगे.
Though not everyone in his village agrees.
हमको तो नहीं लगता है कि यहाँ पे लोगों के लिए कुछ काम किया है. जो बात है, अगर काम होता तो आप कहीं पे भी जाइए, पूछिए जाकर के, आपको शायद कोई नहीं बताएगा कि यहाँ पे काम आनंद मोहन पर्सनली यहाँ पे कुछ किए हैं.
Anand Mohan's son Chetan Anand claims his father was wrongly convicted.
कोर्ट का जो आदेश था उसको हम लोगों ने बिल्कुल माना, पूरी सजा कंप्लीट की हम लोगों ने. एंड टुडे वी आर मतलब after 16 long years he's out.
A big political war between the BJP and the current ruling government on the ground, where the BJP is actually attacking the government, saying that you cannot release a hardened criminal. In fact, what we are learning that G. Krishnaiah's wife is also going to urge to Prime Minister Narendra Modi and President Murmu against the release of Anand Mohan. But as far as mood on the ground is concerned, there are posters being put up and he is being hailed as a hero, as Shere Bihar. With camera person Habib and Tanishq for NDTV from Saharsa and Bihar.
Amid cries and loud chanting of Bharat Mata Ki Jai, wreaths were laid on Thursday at the bodies of 10 police personnel and a civilian driver who died in a blast carried out by Maoists in Chhattisgarh's Dantewada district. NDTV has accessed an exclusive video that captures the moments right after the explosion, even as several questions remain unanswered. A policeman moving into position to fire at rebels minutes after a massive blast killed 11 of his colleagues. The short video, shot by another policeman who had taken cover under a vehicle after the blast, also shows the site of the explosion. In the video, a chilling reality, a voice is heard amidst gunshots. The blast left a crater about 10 feet deep. Towards the end of the clip, gunshots can be heard. The policeman who shot the video spoke exclusively to NDTV.
टोटल कितनी गाड़ी थी पूरे काफिले में?
काफिले में सामने एक पिकअप थी।
हाँ हाँ।
और मेरी स्कॉर्पियो थी।
हाँ हाँ।
तो होने के बाद तूफान जो फोर्स गाड़ी थी वो सामने आई। वो ब्लास्ट हुई इसके बाद।
अच्छा, तो ये क्या आमा पंडुम के लिए वहाँ लड़के रोक रहे थे क्या? ये आप लोगों ने नहीं देखा क्योंकि आगे गाड़ी ब्लास्ट हो गया था?
हाँ हाँ।
आमा पंडुम के लिए रोका था उन लोगों को?
हाँ, उससे पहले रोका गया था 100 मीटर।
तो उस टाइम कोई बचा था या कोई भी नहीं बच पाया? सीधे ब्लास्ट में सब उड़ गए आपके साथी?
ब्लास्ट में सब हो गए थे।
सब खत्म हो गए।
थे जिनका जो पीछे बैठे थे साथ वो गेट के वो खुलने की वजह से भाग गए थे, वो भी बाद में उनकी डेथ।
The blast, which took place in Dantewada, is the biggest Maoist strike in Chhattisgarh in the past 2 years. Chief Minister Bhupesh Baghel shouldered a coffin of one of the Jawans.
ये शहादत बेकार नहीं जाएगी, बल्कि और तेजी के साथ ये लड़ाई और लड़ी जाएगी.
Chief Minister Bhupesh Baghel said the fight against Maoists was in its final phase and that the rebels will not be spared. Questions have been raised over why a road opening patrol did not sanitize the route that a convoy of DRG took before Maoists ambushed them. The basic aim of the exercise is to prevent such attacks and ambushes. Why were the policemen of the District Reserve Guard travelling in a rented van and not an armoured vehicle? A local festival popular with children called Amapandum was being celebrated some 100 meters from the ambush site, but nobody took a note of the gathering. Sources say Maoists forced the locals to hold the festival near the ambush site as cover for the attack. Vehicles slowed down near such gatherings as many children tend to be around the road. DRG personnel used to walk down the route, but they have been using four-wheelers for the past few months. The DRG's operations manual, however, does not recommend road opening patrols and other field teams to use four-wheelers. The police used the same vehicles in the recent past, and that might have helped the attacker identify, track and ambush them. The attack happened barely 700 meters from the Arunpur police station, yet sources say the Maoists managed to dig a foxhole nearby and plant a large bomb. Experts feel there was also a lack of human intelligence.
जिस आईडी मॉडिंग का एक पुराना मोडस ऑपरेंडी एक पुराना तौर तरीका है जिसमें पूर्व में भी हमारा काफ़ी नुकसान हुआ, लेकिन हर ऑपरेशन में आवश्यक सावधानी बरतते हुए फिर उस चुनौती को सामने करके हम लोग आगे बढ़ते थे.
Amid cries and loud chanting of Bharat Mata Ki Jai, wreaths were laid on Thursday at the bodies of 10 police personnel and a civilian driver.
Darbhad Division Committee, a subcommittee of the Maoists that operates in and around Arunpur, took the responsibility of the attack. They were holding meetings in different villages for an attempted revival. The last big attack carried out by the Darbhad Divisional Committee was during Lok Sabha elections when they killed BJP MLA Bhima Mandavi, and as per sources, area commander Manju was also present at the spot. With Zulfikar, Vikas Tiwari and camera person Rizwan Khan, Anurag Dwari for NDTV.
The centre has told the Supreme Court, which is hearing arguments on a clutch of pleas seeking legal sanction for same-sex marriages, that arguments about freedom of sexual orientation and autonomy may be raised in future to challenge incest prohibition. It will be far-fetched. The 5-judge Constitution bench headed by Chief Justice D.Y. Chandrachud observed, also asking key questions on the centre on how can same-sex couples avail social benefits.
That I am attracted to my sister. I get we are consenting adults. We are entering into activities within the privacy, and we claim our right of autonomy, our right of choice, and our right of doing something in private domain. Based on that very argument, Lord, I'm posing a question to myself. Can someone not challenge this definition itself? Why this restriction?
That look, if the court were to go into the legislative arena, you've made a very powerful argument on that look, you'll be legislating. This is not your remit. This is for Parliament or the state legislatures under entry 5 as we put up front. But short of that, our law has gone so far now. Now what does the government want to do to ensure that these cohabitatory relationships, if I can call it that, the relationships based on cohabitation, on association, Brother Narasimha says, they must be recognized in terms of creating conditions of security, social welfare. And to ensure, by doing that, we also ensure that for the future, that these relationships cease to be ostracized in society.
And situation is tense in Manipur's Churachandpur district ahead of Chief Minister Biren Singh's visit on Friday. According to reports, a group of unruly mob members vandalized the venue of Chief Minister Biren Singh's event. And I'm being joined by my colleague Ratnadeep. Ratnadeep, what is the situation currently? Give us details.
Well, the situation at this moment also remains very tense. In fact, the visuals that that are coming in from Churachandpur clearly suggest that a lot of properties in that venue where the Chief Minister would have attended a government event tomorrow have been set on fire. In fact, we have those visuals, and there are visuals of a group of unruly miscreants, unruly mob, also breaking chairs and other properties in that venue. So in between, what has happened is that some of the pressure groups, some of the tribal civil society groups have also called for a shutdown in the Kuki tribe dominated areas, particularly in Churachandpur district. In fact, the Indigenous Tribal Leaders Forum has called for a strike, for a shutdown in Churachandpur from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. They're saying this is a mark of non-cooperation with all government-related programs, and why they're doing so is because what they have said in their press release is that they have submitted several memorandums to the government of Manipur for voicing the grievances of the tribal people pertaining to reserve forests, protected forests, wetlands, wildlife, eviction from the villages, and recently there have been demolition of a few church in different areas of the state, which the government claims were on encroached land. But the tribal forum says that this is something which has deeply hurt the sentiments of the tribals in Manipur, and therefore they are miffed with the government. And it seems that since the chief minister was to attend a government program in Churachandpur, section of the crowd, or what police is saying, miscreants have set a lot of properties around that same venue on fire. So at this moment, the situation remains very tense in Churachandpur district of Manipur, and the civil society groups have called for a shutdown as well tomorrow.
All right, Ratnadeep, thank you for those details. A shutdown being called for on Friday. Time for a short break.
In a deeply
20 years since we started, this music has been with you. Now, we want you to share your version of it. Let your inner artists out. by creating an incredible remix of the NDTV signature track. Log on to ndtv.com/bestofndtv. Get inspired and submit your rendition. One winner gets an all-expense paid holiday for two. NDTV 24x7 20th year celebration.
Gadgets 360 is here to help you with all your tech needs.
Gadget 360, Gadget Love.
Gadgets 360, Gadgets Love. You too can get some gadget love with buying guides, expert reviews, and all the latest news on Gadgets 360.
Debates are essential not just for journalism but for humanity. It ignites our mind, opens it up for counter-opinion. To hear all views, opinion of all hues. Which is why the oldest running debate show on Indian news television is not 23 years old, but young at 23.
इस इनिशिएटिव को मैं अभिनंदन करता हूं कि सच को सच के रूप में पेश करने का उन्होंने साहस दिखाया.
So let us begin the big fight. In a deeply polarized world, where space for disagreement is shrinking, where take it or leave it defines discourse, we take a step back. A debate has many facets, perhaps no one right answer. Left, right and center, conversations that get to the core of the debate. Left, right and center with me, Vishnu Shobh, 9 p.m. on NDTV 24x7.
"20 years since we started, this music has been with you, playing in your homes, at work, and in your car. Now, we want you to share your version of it. Calling all music buffs from across India to let your inner artists out by creating an incredible remix of the NDTV signature track for the world to hear. Log on to ndtv.com/bestofndtv to access the original track. Get inspired and submit your rendition. One winner gets an all-expense paid holiday for two to the luxurious Alila Fort, Bishangarh, Rajasthan. NDTV 24x7 20th year celebrations.
This is NDTV. No noise, no shouting, and most importantly, no lies. Our lead story tonight. Big international story. India is closely watching it. News.
Welcome back. Amid continuing protests, India's top wrestlers, the Indian Olympic Association has appointed a 3-member ad hoc committee to run day-to-day affairs of the Wrestling Federation of India, or WFI. Meanwhile, Indian Olympic Association chief PT Usha has strongly criticized the public protest by wrestlers over alleged sexual harassment by Wrestling Federation India boss Brijbhushan Sharan Singh, a BJP MP who has denied the allegations and indicated he will fight fiercely to prove he is innocent.
हमारा एथलेटिक कमीशन है, वो लोग पहले थोड़ा तो डिसिप्लिन तो होना चाहिए, है ना? तो they should come to us earlier if they have a real problem. Instead of coming to us, they are gone straight away to street. No, it is not good for the sports, not only for the residents.
Day 5 of wrestlers' protests, and there have been some major developments today. PT Usha has reacted to the protest, and along with her, Anurag Thakur has also reacted to the protest. Now, I am joined by Sakshi Malik, who is at the forefront of this protest since the very beginning. Sakshi ji, सबसे पहले आप क्या बोलना चाहेंगी? PT Usha के जो comments रहे हैं that indiscipline है ये protest, उसके ऊपर आप क्या कहना चाहेंगी?
देखो, सबसे पहले तो हम यहाँ बैठते ही नहीं अगर फैसला अच्छा होता। जो भी कमेटी में बयान दे के आई है लड़कियाँ, लड़के जो कि ऑन रिकॉर्ड है, वीडियो बन रही थी वहाँ पे, तो और जो कमेटी के मेंबर्स थे वो भी रो रहे थे लड़कियों को चुप कराने के लिए, फीमेल मेंबर्स, कि हम आपको न्याय दिलाएंगे, लेकिन कहाँ दिलाया न्याय? हमारी तो नहीं सुनी गई, तो उसके बाद मजबूरन हमें यहाँ बैठना पड़ा। और रही बात अनडिसिप्लिन की, तो एक एथलीट इतनी ऊपर तक तभी पहुँच पाता है जब वो डिसिप्लिन में होता है पूरा। तो आज बड़ी निराशा हुई बड़ा दुख हुआ ये सुन के कि एक महिला होके भी वो महिलाओं का दर्द नहीं समझ रही हैं, क्योंकि मैं बचपन से उनको फॉलो करती हूँ और हमेशा से ये था कि उन्होंने अपने देश का नाम रोशन किया तो मुझे भी उन जैसा बनना है, लेकिन वो भी इतना अनसेंसिटिव और ये सब बयान देते हैं तो दिल को बड़ा ठेस पहुँची। आज पूरा दिन से ठेस पहुँच रही है।